welcome to the Pursuit of Healthiness Podcast. I'm your host, Winanda van Delft. I'm a health and mindset coach, spaghetti and ice cream lover, travel junk, and a cat mom. I love conversations that are on a more raw and deeper level. So today's guest is Sheena Yap Chan. She's a wonderful woman who is a writer and is helping other Asian women to gain back their confidence. Asian women don't have a lot of support when it comes to teaching or talking about self-confidence, and that's why she started her own podcast and has shared stories from over 700 women on how they gain back their confidence. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to do it and the truth about women in business. Hello and welcome at my podcast today. How is everything?
Great.
Yes, awesome. So I already know a little bit about yourself, but can you tell a little bit more to the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Sheena Yap Chan, and thanks for having me here today. I'm really grateful to be on your podcast. And I have a podcast also. It's called The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self-confidence. The main reasons why I do that is because, as Asian women, we don't really have a lot of support when it comes to confidence issues. And also representation is very important because as Asian women, we don't have that representation, or we still have the wrong kind of representation, which, society still sees us as quiet, submissive, and obedient. And I really want to change that because after interviewing over 700 Asian women, like, that is not the case. They've been through hell and back and are still able to thrive because they had the confidence to go out there to forge their own path and live life on their terms. So yeah, and then I also have two books coming out in 2021. One is called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which I co-created with another lady. It's featuring 16 Asian women sharing their stories about entrepreneurship and living life on their terms. Another one's called Women of Color Who Boss Up, which I'll be featured on, which is featuring 16 women of color sharing their stories as well. So I'm just really excited, to find other platforms to really elevate women's voices because it's necessary, especially in 2020. We still need a lot of representation, and the kind of representation where other women can see what's possible in themselves and just go after what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Cool. I cannot wait to read it. So how is it in your culture? Like, how are women treated differently than men?
Well, our life is pretty much set out for us the minute we're born. It's basically you go get a job, go to school, get a job, never rock the boat, get married, have kids, and it's either you stay at home with the kids, you work for the family business, or you find a job that's like deemed a good job, right? And as women, we have less control than the men. I mean, I've been reading like research from like, countries in Asia where even if you're married, the women can't even own their home. And if something
Really?
happens, yeah, the men can take it right away, which is unfortunate. And we get a lot of labels. It's crazy how much labels we get as women, especially Asian women. Like in China, if you're single and over 25, you're like considered a leftover.
Really?
Yeah, which is unfortunate because these women are highly educated. They've done such crazy things, yet people still, are too focused on the fact that they're not married yet. It's like,
Wow.
I'm not saying marriage is bad. If you find someone that you love, truly love unconditionally, that's great. But you shouldn't get married for the sake of marriage, right? Because
No, absolutely.
things happen, like there's domestic abuse that happens a lot that nobody talks about. The woman doesn't get to control finances sometimes, and I've heard, which is true because I've, people have told me, like, they're married but they don't even have their own money. They have to like ask for permission from their husband. So
Wow.
I want people to get married for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons, not for the sake of
Mm-hmm.
so your family can say you've been married off. And because it's like a huge thing, right? Like especially in Asian culture, it's like something's wrong with you if you're not married. Like if like you're 25 and over, like there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes you just find someone later on in life and that's it. And I want people to realize like you're okay just the way you are. So, I mean, those are some of the things. It's just crazy. It's like, the men get more leeway than women when it comes to like families, right? Like if you had a brother, your brother would have more leeway, or they would be like the first in line for everything versus the sister.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
know there's, I mean, in general, there's a lot of pressure on women to, like you said, to get married, to have kids, have the husband. But I didn't know it was in Asia, it was that bad. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's bad because especially as women, we should be able to have the rights to do what we want, to marry who we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I even talked to this one girl. She has like an amazing business. She has a great job. Like, she has a great career, but yet when they have parties, she has to go in the bathroom just to have like an alcoholic beverage. She can't have it in front of like her extended family when they have parties because it's not deemed proper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
How is
that's another example, and that's like current events, and it's like it's crazy. Like,
that
why
that
can't you
still
have
is
a drink?
happening now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How is that affecting you?
Um, you
How
know,
is
I
because
I
you've
mean,
been brought up that way, right?
yeah, I mean, for me, I just felt like I was never enough. I always had to please other people before putting myself first. I never, it was really hard for me to make my own decisions. I was very over analytical. I would like think about every single thing, and just over analyze that one thing. Like, for example, starting this podcast. When I started my podcast, like I over analyzed to the point where it like delayed it for like 3, 4 months because I was so afraid that people might not like my voice, the show would not do well, maybe the content they didn't like, or maybe I was just, so many things were just rambling through my head that it like paralyzed me from taking action.
Wow. And how did you overcome that?
Um, I mean, surrounding yourselves with people who can be there for you is really important. So a friend told me to like, just put it out there. Who cares if you fail, you fail. At least you know, and you can just move on. And so, yeah, I did do that because I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess it's time. So it's very important to surround yourselves with people who are there for you, who see your blind spots, uh, who, who like lift you up, right? Because if you surround yourselves with toxic people, it's not good for you. It's not good for your mindset. It's not good for your soul. So you really need to find people who are there for your like, um, who are there for you. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that your upbringing and the pressure to be, well, perfect all the time, do you think you put out a strength out of that? Do you think you turn it into something positive? Do
I
you
think
think you
just
have an advantage because of that?
Well, I think it's just, when I share my stories, it's very relatable because I've been through that and overcame it kind of. We still go through all that because, it stems from our childhood, but I'm able to talk about it more and help other women out there realize like it's okay if you're not perfect because none of us is perfect and there's no such thing as perfection, right? For me,
True.
I never say practice makes perfect. It's practice makes progression, right? We
Yeah.
just keep
Oh, I
on
love that.
progressing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
so for me, it's like the experiences I've been through, I can just share with, to your listeners, to other people, and like help them realize like I went through all this too, and I'm still here standing and sharing, what I've learned, and hopefully it can help you do the same thing if you're going through something with a similar situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of women are struggling with being perfect and being confident in what they do. And yeah, it's just a really tough situation or environment for us as women. And that's why I love talking to you and talking to other women to show that we are strong together. We can change the world, but we have to work together. It's our time. I mean,
Yeah.
the men are important, of course, but they've ruled enough for a long time. Right.
Yeah,
It's
for
time
sure.
for us to raise our voice and change the way that things are going, like that this situation, what you've told me before, that this is still happening in China or in Asia in general. I don't know, but I feel really privileged as a Western European woman, and even I feel the pressure to be, to get kids, especially because I have a relationship for over 10 years. I'm 25 now. We are engaged, but not married yet. And even I feel the pressure like, oh, when are you going to have kids? And when are you getting married? And so, yeah, there's still a lot to do for us.
For sure. And also just like beauty standards as well, right? Like if you've ever been to Asia, it's like if you don't have light skin, you're not considered beautiful. And so like like I'm from the Philippines, and if you
Yeah,
ever just drive on the highway, there's like big billboards of like whitening creams, promoting whitening cream, whitening lotion, things like that, because they think that's more beautiful if you have lighter skin. And we have to take that out too, because like you're just beautiful in your own skin. It shouldn't have to be like you need to lighten your skin or darken your skin. You're beautiful just the way you are. And I think that's another thing, right? The media um depicts this like standard of beauty which is unattainable because nobody realizes they like edit that to a T, where they become
yeah, yeah.
unrecognizable. And what you see is not what you get. What you see is like an edited version. And so you can't edit yourself in real life. Like
No.
you can't take off inches I mean, the only way you can do that is you work out, right? Like it's
Yeah,
not something that's instant, or unless, that's why I guess a lot of women go through plastic surgery because they just feel like there's so many things about them that's wrong and they want to correct it.
yeah,
And so we just have to promote natural, you're beautiful just the way you are, right? Like
yeah,
it's very important. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done because we all have
absolutely.
insecure. Yeah, we
Yeah,
all have insecurities, right? We all feel like we're never beautiful, but it has to start with yourself. Even looking in the mirror and just saying, I am beautiful. Like it's powerful. I know sometimes it's awkward when you first say it because it's
yeah,
not something
yeah,
you're usually doing, but the more you say it, the more powerful it becomes and the more you start believing that you are beautiful.
yeah, yeah. And I started doing that as well. And the first time I was standing in the mirror and I was trying to be brave, if I can say it like that. And I was like, I am beautiful. And then immediately a voice in my head was like, no, you're not. And I was like, I am beautiful. No, you're not. And at some point I was like, oh, what's the point, But after, like you said, you have to repeat it every single time. Like you have to do it every single day for you to be able to change your mindset, to change your beliefs. And now I do think I'm beautiful, and things I hated in the past I think are beautiful right now. And maybe you not agree with the things that I think are beautiful about myself, but that doesn't matter, because in the end, who cares? Why do you care what people think about you? It's not saying anything about you as a person. It says everything about them. Because I was bullied when I was a child and a teenager. I got bullied a lot. At that time, it hurted really bad. But now I'm like, they had issues. I because I wasn't part of the popular gang, I thought I was the weird one, I was the crazy one, I was, the ugly one. But now I think, no, I was strong enough to be myself. I had two best friends, and that was it. And they the popular girls needed each other to value themselves. And I think that's a shame. I think that we should value each other just the way we are. We don't need another person in our lives. We don't need to look a certain way. We don't need to have a certain body type, body shape, or wear certain clothing size. We are worthy. We are worthy right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but that's why it
Yeah,
takes work, right? It
yeah,
takes work every single day because for me, self-confidence is something you deal with for the rest of your life because we
yeah,
have new challenges, new setbacks. Life isn't always linear. It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, sometimes we're upside down. We just don't
yeah,
know what's going to happen. But the more we practice on our confidence and realize that we can overcome any situation, like that's what matters the most. Like I remember I had one lady who went bankrupt 3 times. She said
oh,
the third time was just a lot easier to pick herself back up and move forward because it happened before. It already happened to her twice. And
yeah,
so I mean, a lot of people go through failure, and failure is okay because it's just part of life. And that's another thing, we view failure as something that's like the end of all ends, the end of the world, and nothing good will ever come out of it. But really,
Yeah,
you just pick yourself back up. It's a moment of temporary defeat. And, a lot of successful people failed.
yeah. I
And
think the successful people fail and they allow themselves to fail. That's why they are successful.
yeah, because they just, they kept picking themselves back up every time they face failure, if they face defeat. So,
Yeah,
if people just realize like that's a part of life, they can like live life a lot, not with like less weight on their shoulder, knowing like this is just a part of life and I just have to go through it and push through it and keep going.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because once you give up, that's when that's when you actually fail.
Yeah.
It's the moment that you decide, because it's a choice. It's a choice that you make to move forward. Like, bad things happen, but you can choose to see the bright side of it, or to learn something positive out of it and to move on. It's not just success in any way, whatever success means to you, whether that's having $1 million in the bank account, or owning a big house, or just having a beautiful family. Whatever success means to you, it's always with ups and downs. There is no quick fix, there is no straight line to having that. And people are always looking for a quick fix, and that's something that I'm trying to fix. Because it just doesn't work like that. And I think what the beauty of life is, and the beauty of failure, um, is that you come out stronger out of that. I mean, like you said, a lot of people think it's the end of the world, that they are going to die, and it's nothing like that. I believe the best lessons from life you learn from those failures. You learn yourself, who you are as a person, and you know what you really want out of life.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, I think this is something that's really needed for everyone to hear, just so that they can realize like, nothing's wrong with me. It's
Yeah,
just life.
yeah, yeah. Everybody goes through it. Like, no matter where you're coming from or what you've been through, like, everybody experiences it, and some are worse, some are not. But we all have to pick ourselves up at some point in our lives. We all have to make that decision of, am I going to move forward? What is my next step going to be? Yeah. Um, what is something that hit you in your life, but you are now grateful for that it happened?
Oh wow. That's a great question.
So I'm just yeah.
I think just, I guess, like the struggles that I've been through, right? It really made me open my eyes at the time when I'm struggling with something, especially when you're in entrepreneurship. Like sometimes it sucks. You're like,
Yeah.
why aren't I as successful as that person already? And when you're first starting out, you compare yourself to a lot of people who are already successful. But, sometimes you have to go through what you go through so you can see why you went through it, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes if you get successful too fast and you fall down really fast as well, and like how do you even pick yourself back up after that moment, right? It's not easy because you were accustomed to something so like different, and now like you went way up high and then went down low. um it's crazy. And then I guess just seeing what other people went through and seeing like how their situation is, sometimes I'm grateful that I didn't go through what they went through, and that I'm struggling now. It's fine. It's not the biggest like, it's not a big deal because I know something great will come out of it. It just made me realize to just be humble as well, right? Just be grateful.
Mhm.
Even though I'm struggling, at least I still have a roof over my head. I have 3 meals to eat. I have, a shower to take a bath in, because some of those basic necessities are a luxury in other countries, and
Yeah.
we tend to forget that living in the Western cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, something, yeah, you have to be grateful for what you have, right? And I've seen, especially in this pandemic, a lot of people that lost their jobs, lost their houses or relationships, and other people who have it okay, especially in the Netherlands. I know Some people still get paid. They don't work at the moment because of the pandemic, but they still get paid their normal salary, their normal wage, except for the holiday hours, for the holiday money. And I'm like, that's your only thing you can nag about, is because you don't get the holiday hours. And
Yeah.
I'm like, some people where I live on the Canary Islands, are on the street right now with kids, don't have food. And I'm like, and you are talking about not getting your holiday hours, your vacation hours. And I'm like, this world, you can be rich as long as you choose to see what you have, appreciate what you have,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in like from the Philippines, and they've been having crazy typhoons. In one area, it's just the whole city or whole town is flooded.
Wow.
Like, you see people just on top of roofs because they can't, like, the whole city is just flooded. And that's like, sometimes you just have to realize how lucky you are that you're not in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to go back to what you said earlier, like comparing yourself to other entrepreneurs or people who have success, because we tend to compare ourselves to what they have, but we don't know their story, we don't know their struggle, and we've talked about this before, but especially on Facebook, I see now so many people with, I made this amount of money in a week or this amount of money in a day, and it can put you down and make you feel like you're not doing your best or you're not good enough. But we don't know the struggles. And what I want to do with this conversation with you is to show that the real truth about having success and about life, like, it is a struggle. It's not always going well, and you're not always going to make a lot of money. That's what you see. That's the top of the iceberg. It's not, a lot of people only share the good times, but I love to talk about the bad times. Not that I feed myself with other people's struggle or misery, but we have to be real, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes entrepreneurship is glamorized on
Yeah.
on like social media. And you know, people who say they did it in a week don't realize like what they had to do that. Sometimes they pay for it, right? Like
Hmm.
advertising, or they've been working at it for like years, and they just finally figured out how to make that money in a week.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing for me. I don't think there's such thing as overnight success. The people who had overnight success have been working for it for years and years and years and years. Especially like you see like famous people, you think that they just came out of nowhere. No, they've been working at it. Some of them have sung for like beer because the people couldn't pay them. Some people
Mm.
had to like go from audition to audition to audition just to get that break.
Yeah.
So people don't realize like you have to work at it. Like they worked at it to get to where they are today.
Hmm.
And I wish just people like just talked about that more. Even like yeah, entrepreneurship is great. You get to pick your own hours, but sometimes you're working at 2 in the morning. That's the
Yeah.
hour you have to pick sometimes because you're working for yourself. Sometimes you might not have a stable income because you're working for yourself, and you have to be okay with that. And sometimes you do have to sacrifice a lot of things, right? And you have to be okay with that. And like, I'm not trying to say this to dampen someone's spirit. It's just to help you realize this is what comes with the territory, and if you're okay with it, then go ahead and do it. If not, then maybe it's not for you. I'm not saying entrepreneurship isn't for you. I'm just saying you have to be okay with the bad stuff, right? Like the cons of entrepreneurship, which is maybe you have to work 24 hours in a day, and maybe you have to sacrifice going out or spending some time with your family at first because you're building something.
Yeah.
And once you figured it out, then it's great, right?
Hmm.
Of course it's great. You get to be your own boss, you get to pick your own hours, you get to pick and choose who you want to work with, and that is the beauty of it. But there's also an ugly side to it where sometimes it's very frustrating to figure out something. Sometimes you feel like you're all alone in this journey and no one can understand you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think like, is this even worth doing it? And you have to figure out why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've experienced that a lot this year. But yeah, that's what it is. Sometimes it goes well and you're like, okay, this is the best decision I've ever made. And sometimes you're against that block of like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this even what I want? And yeah, what is the um, do you have you experienced I wouldn't say a low point, but what's your worst experience of um, working for yourself?
I think just feeling like a failure because, like, if I don't get the results that I want, I just feel like something's wrong with me, or like, I'm not doing it right, or yeah, I just feel like, so low because it's like, why can't I get this right? Why are they like so successful already and I'm not? Like, I still play the compare game, and I have to
Hmm.
like catch myself sometimes because I have to realize like their chapter 20 is not my chapter 1 or my chapter 5.
True. Yeah.
So we have to, keep that in mind. And yeah, like just feeling really like depressed, because I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll like eat my feelings because it's like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Why am I not getting this right? Like, what am I doing that's wrong? And sometimes I just bottle everything up that it just makes it worse, and you need an outlet to just let it all out, whether it's like, exercising or just going in the bathroom and screaming. You
Yeah.
just find an outlet to let it all out, or else it's not, you're just going to explode. You're just like a ticking time bomb waiting for to explode. And
Hmm.
that's another huge thing, like people's mental health, right? Especially in this current situation that we're in, like everyone's mental health issues have heightened because we're on lockdown. We can't really go out as much as we do, or lots of places are closed, and so we don't have like that human connection, or just being able to just go to the mall is just like, not as it's not the same anymore, because it's like you got to be careful around your surroundings, you got to wear masks, things like that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are suffering right now mentally because of this lockdown. And so we have to
Hmm.
find an outlet to release that, whether even if you have to seek professional help, that's fine, as long as it can help you, make you feel better. Because I know, especially in Asian culture, mental health like issues is not something we talk about. It's actually a big taboo. It's like if something's wrong with you, they'll quietly put you in a, sometimes they'll quietly put you in a mental institution, or like they try to avoid it as much as possible, thinking it'll go away, but it won't be, because you need to talk it out. You need to find
Yeah.
help. And like, if you seek help, something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. We all go through it. We all have, some form of mental health issues because we're human, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to like be okay and kind of like, bring these topics up so that it is okay to talk about it. It is okay to seek help, and that nothing is wrong with you.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, people need to seek help if they need it, and even if it's just talking to your best friend or call some stranger online. Like I always preach on my social media that if someone needs to talk to, I am here. Like you should not feel like a burden to talk to someone, especially not if there is someone out there saying like, hey, I'm here to talk to. Really talk to that person, because otherwise they wouldn't say it. That's one. I mean, if you not really mean it, then you shouldn't say it. And sometimes talking to a stranger can be the best thing for you, because they are not as close to you as friends or family are, so they cannot really judge you in a way. Like family or friends always have their own game or something with it. So yeah, just find a way, find an outlet that helps you. Yeah. Would you say that this year or entrepreneurship in general has affected your health?
In the beginning, yeah, in the beginning of the lockdown, it has, because a part of me was just like, great, the world's ending. I'm not doing anything. I just didn't do anything at all. I was just like, I'm just gonna like binge on Netflix, eat junk food, and not even care because the world's like ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really thought that. I just didn't feel like doing anything because I didn't think anything was good was gonna happen. And I know people like, but you have a podcast about confidence and you're not confident. Yeah, I have a podcast about confidence and I'm not confident all the time.
Yeah.
That's, just because I have something out there. Sometimes I'm not always confident, but it does help me build my confidence and realize some of the things I've done. And I just had to get out of that funk and like, start doing projects again and start working out and, be mindful of what I eat. And, it takes time to like pick yourself back up, but eventually you start getting better, you start feeling better, and you start, you know, attracting things that you never thought was possible because you just decide to pick yourself back up and go out there and take action and show up.
Yeah, yeah. That it's coming back again to the roller coaster. Like sometimes it's going down, sometimes it's going up, and you just have to go with the flow. And every season has something. So yeah, and we're all going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. How if people want to know more about confidence or maybe the Asian culture, because you talk about that a lot as well in your book, and how can people find you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can check out my podcast, The Tao of Self Confidence. That's on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or you can check out our website, thetaoofselfconfidence.com. You can also check out my personal website, sheenayapchan.com, or you just Google my name, Sheena Yap Chan. I'm like the only Sheena Yap Chan on the internet. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, yes.
Yeah. And yeah, feel free to connect with me, send an email if you've got any questions. If you need any, coaching, things like that, feel free to connect with me.
Okay, great. Well, I'll leave all the details in the description so people can find you and talk to you. And yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for being on my podcast and having this conversation out there in the world because it needs to be done.
Oh, thanks for having me. I had so much fun talking.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.